One Piece Chapter 973. My god, this was something I really did love. Okay, so, real quick thing. Last chapter was the chapter where Odin finally got boiled alive. We got the conclusion of the Legendary Hour. Odin managed to get all of his vassals to run away to safety. Everyone knows what Odin did to keep them all safe over the past 5 years. And yeah, all that's out in the open. Odin dies, everyone runs away. Orochi starts his paranoia from all that. Unfortunately, we had a delay for the chapter last week, so that was a bit of a bummer. But this chapter was well worth the wait, I have to say. And my God, I really want to talk about this right now. So, all right, let me fix this chair. All right. So we start off with a flashback in a flashback with the time that Odin spent with Roger. And this was great. Them falling down from Skypiea with the balloon octopus, same as Luffy and the Straw Hats did at the end of the Skypiea arc, having Hiyori and Momonosuke on his head and shoulders, telling them, this land is vast and this is a sight you will never see in Wano. Take it in. He basically he even has some moments teaching Momonosuke some stuff like, Momonosuke, what kind of women are you interested in? With Rayleigh saying that's too young for him to teach him that. Odin tries to teach him swordsmanship, like, when you cut a person, think of it like cutting a fish. And then we have Shanks in the background, basically saying that it's too young for him to teach Momo that also. It was a nice starting moment in the chapter, going back to his adventure with Roger and the crew, like a nice little peek into the daily life of the Kozuki clan, the Kozuki family, and the Roger Pirates. It was just a nice comedic touch to go into at the start of this chapter after the emotional and heartbreaking story that happened just in the last two chapters. We also get some time with Odin and his family right before his inevitable charge against Kaido during the time he was spent working and stuff like that for his family and being the fool of the Lord to keep everybody safe. After all that, he even outright confirmed that Toki was from 800 years in the past. Now, for those of you who have been reading One Piece, what's the one thing that happened in that 800-year gap? The Void Century. The one thing that Robin and her family and friends at Ohara, the archaeologists in Ohara, were wanting to study the poneglyphs for. Something that the poneglyphs themselves have, in fact, the hidden mystery of the Void Century. And out of the Void Century came the world government, the creation of the world government and the world nobles. So this is a nice confirmation. Toki was from this Void era, and she did say that she kept moving forward and forward in time, 20-year jumps every single time, until she found someone to pull her back, or find someone that she'd actually stick around for. She met Odin, and that worked out well for her. She got 2 kids. She has a nice husband, great friends, great vassals that will protect her and her family till their death. And it was nice. Odin literally says that in 20 years, someone will come and you will have to give them their aid. And you will know it when you see it. Now, from after this, we jump forward to Kin and everyone running away from Kaido's army. All of Kaido's men start to go after them, saying, they got weapons, take them down. Take down every last samurai. And then Shinobu drops weapons to them and basically slashes all of them, cutting through, showing the strength of the Wano samurai. As this is going on, Shinobu literally asks to be a vassal of the Kozuki. And honestly, the response Kinemon gave was right, and I loved it. Basically saying that they basically became Odin's vassals of their own selfish free will. They were freeloaders pretty much. And he's like, if you want to be a vassal, that is your call. Do what you want. I have no reason to stop you or lecture you on this. And I love that. Shinobu in tears basically says yes, that she will dedicate herself to all this. And while this is going on, Dog Viper, Cat Viper, and Dogstrom are fighting, full-on feuding. So this is the start of their full-on rivalry and battle against each other. Their arguments, their anger, their fight against each other. This was the start. Odin's death was the actual start. Dogstrom literally saying, "You Gaara are basically you could have killed Lord Odin yourself from all your selfless actions." Cat Viper tells Dogstrom that he basically cared more about the enemy's feelings than Odin's. And then in that instance, they ended up getting caught by this giant monster in the background who might be, I don't know who it is. It could end up being Queen for all we know, or maybe it's an early version of Jack. We have no idea. It's not definitely not Queen. Maybe a new character that we'll end up getting to see later on. But they end up getting caught. So I did like how I said in the last chapter. Quick tangent, real quick. I said that we're going to continue the flashback at least in the first half of the chapter. Instead, it was basically the entire chapter again, which I'm not too upset about because this was the real setup. This was a great chapter. So after Dogstrom and Viper end up getting attacked and captured, pretty much, Ashura and Danjiro confront all of these pirates as Kinemon, Raizo, Kanjuro, and Shinobu, and damn, I just read the Kappa guy's name. I'm just gonna call him the Kappa. Damn, what was his name? What the hell was his name? I can't. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Kawamatsu. That was it. I think it was Kawamatsu. Yeah, I'm going with Kawamatsu. Please tell me if I'm wrong. Please? Just please tell me if I'm doing this, if I'm saying the names wrong or mixing them up. I feel ashamed of myself for getting them wrong. So please, just tell me if they're wrong. So anyway, after this, Danjiro and Ashura try and hold them off. We then skip to Kaido attacking Odin Castle like in the flashback. So Momonosuke was not at the execution, but Kaido did end up going into the castle. Toki tried to protect her kids, saying there's an escape route. Kaido is holding Momo by the neck, hanging him over the edge of the castle. Momo in his mind is like, it's too high. I'm gonna fall I'm gonna die if I fall from here. Kaido basically says that Odin was a fool of a lord and he will die as the son of a fool. And his death was a joke or something like that. So Momo basically says that Odin, his father, was not a fool of a lord. He is the greatest man to ever live, and that one day he will hold the future of Wano over his shoulders as he's crying. And honestly, despite him crying in that instance, he basically says that outright to Kaido. And he's like, he throws him. He's like, I did not realize how young you were. So he tosses Momo back into the castle, turns into his dragon form. He's like, that's Odin's son. Let him perish in the fire. In that instance, Kinemon and everyone rush to Toki, and she basically says, "Come here. I have something to share with you." And Kinemon's like, 20? We're going to the future? And this is the instance where Momonosuke, Kinemon, and Raizo and Tanjiro get transported to the future, and Kawamatsu takes Shiori and flees the castle. Toki gets on a horse and runs out of the palace towards the people, with flashbacks of what's going on. She pulls a sword up in the air, saying a poem, I believe, or some kind of prophecy maybe, until she ends up dying. We then get a nice flashback to Orochi in a bath, basically telling his servant that, I want this to be boiling. And the lady says, it is. You can burn your skin in this. He's like, I'm cold. Find me the bones of the Kozuki. I want to know that they're actually dead. And everyone was like this is the start of Orochi's paranoia. This is the full-on Orochi paranoia right here. Now, in just a few panels, we got to see Orochi literally shivering with fear. because Odin was stood a whole hour in boiling oil. Despite him dying, he wants to see the bones. He wants to see the bodies. He wants to know for sure that all the Kozuki clan members are dead and their vassals are dead. So that is good setup for Orochi's character. I like that. So moving on, we actually do get to see Kawamatsu trying to comfort Hiyori as everything that just happened. She went through a lot as a kid. Ashura is resting somewhere and is like, so 20 years in the future, huh? Are they really okay? Lady Toki? He's basically wondering to himself. And then Danjuro is somewhere in anger. Like, shouting in anger about what happened. He wasn't able to do anything. And when he gets out, his face is completely different. And he walks through town. And he basically takes the whole Odin role as the misfits and stuff like that end up following him. Calling himself Danjuro. Did I say his name right? Again, it's weird. I can't get the names right sometimes because a lot of the names end up sounding familiar towards the end. But anyway, so it's this one sleeping guy, the guy that we saw at the beginning of the Wano arc with the long pompadour-like hairstyle, who's essentially Orochi's bodyguard, I have to guess. So what I can tell is that he could have been the traitor from that moment on, but he wasn't. He essentially took on this thing by himself to become close to Orochi, possibly to wait for the day when help will arrive to take down Orochi and Kaido, how Odin prophesied and told them. So he essentially biding his time, getting stronger as part of Orochi's crew, having to deal with some heartbreak and some horrible things just to stay on Orochi's good side so he can inevitably betray him. Until one day, Hiyori ends up leaving Kawamatsu like Kawamatsu said originally. And we then cut to her being at the house where Danjuro, where Kanjuro, I'm just going to call him Kanjuro, was actually being as a base. He literally bows to Hiyori and says, "You do not recognize me, but I am actually," and she says his name, and he's like, "I know, I'm sorry that you can't recognize me." Anger physically altered my face. That is something new. I mean, I knew your face could freeze. It's possible for your face to freeze after you make a specific face for a long period of time, but I don't know. He basically says that no one will end up recognizing him. This worked for getting into Orochi's good graces, and even their allies will most likely not be able to know it's him. So he begs Hiyori to keep this secret, that he will protect her. She will be in this area and take up this new identity as a geisha until the time is right. And that's where the chapter ends. Overall, this is a really nice chapter. I was curious to see how... Oh, one quick thing I forgot to mention. In the flashback at the beginning of this chapter, Odin does say that he actually did go to Zao with Roger, which was stated earlier in the story. But he outright says that the Gozuki clan and the Minks have some kind of strong kinship, and that there are mighty warriors. If something goes wrong, or if you need their strength, go to Zao. They will give you refuge, and they will help you. Which sets up everything after once we get to the main time. Once we get to present days. But yeah, this is a great chapter in my opinion. Well worth the 2-week wait. What did you think of the reveal? I mean, honestly, some people did theorize that Danjuro was Kinjuro from the very start, but I would need a little bit of convincing. So, also, what did you guys think of that another chapter in this flashback? This is obviously the longest flashback in the One Piece manga, so I honestly enjoyed this flashback very much. I loved Odin. I loved seeing the vassals acting in this. I loved how all these events coincided and were not disappointing whatsoever. But what did you guys think of this chapter? Was this good? Did you feel like this flashback went on for a bit too long? Do you think that the next chapter will in fact go back to present times? Because I do feel like they kind of went full on into a full circle here. I think all the loose ends are pretty much tied up. The only thing they really need to cover right now is what Kinemon and his group end up doing the second they make it to the future, and how Dogstrom and Cat Viper escape the Beast Pirates and manage to find their way back to Zao to become the leaders there and becoming a lot stronger in the next 20 years. But yeah, those are really the only loose ends I can see. I mean, Oda doesn't really have to go into full detail on that. You can just leave it off with this, and I'd be fine with it. Overall, this is a great chapter. I really liked seeing what I'm sorry, I can't speak in full sentences with this review. I just really love this chapter. But with everything that happened, I'm really glad that Oda helped tie everything together. How it didn't, from aside from like those two plot points I mentioned previously, I liked how it all tied together. I liked that there were no real loose ends. How we got this whole story fleshed out, the legendary hour, the destruction of Odin's castle, and how they all ended up where they were right before the time jump. Overall, this is a pretty great chapter. I would read this again. I probably am going to read this again if I ever do a One Piece video that isn't just a review of the manga. I can't wait to see what happens next. I really do feel like we're finally going to get back to present day, because with how it ended, I feel like all those ends and mysteries, like I said, are tied up in a neat little bow, and we can just move on to the main story and continue what was going on, because we've spent a long time away from the main cast, and I am really looking forward to seeing what happens next and how this finale, how Wano will end up finishing up. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this chapter, what will happen next. And again, if I get the names wrong, please let me know, because I really want to memorize the names of these characters. There's so many names for me to remember. It's hard sometimes. But yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on the official review official review cave on Twitter and Instagram for updates on future videos, maybe for polls, and yeah, hope you guys have an awesome day and see you around.